What is going on, you guys? Welcome back to another Power Toad video. Now today's video is going to be a lot more of a simplistic video. I'm not going to put a lot of editing and crazy stuff into that. We are actually going to be going over some tortoise care. In specific, we're going to be going over Sulcata tortoise care. Now, being that we will be going over care for the African Sulcata tortoise, it's going to be a little bit longer because I got to go through and show you guys everything that you will need for this setup. So without further ado, let's begin. So taking a look at some of our little baby Sulcata tortoises, you guys can really get a closer look on how adorable these little fellows are. I mean, look at that little man. Look at how cute he is. Look at that adorable little tortoise face. I mean, how can you resist that? Now, one little fun fact. Yes, these guys are cute. They are adorable. But when they're fully grown, they get massive. Like, this is a cactus pad compared to him. That's a whole cactus pad. Look at that. He makes that cactus pad look small. So yeah, these guys are actually the third largest species of tortoise in the world. And when they're fully grown, like Fury here, they're going to get about 3 to 4 feet in length and about 2.5 to 3 feet in width. They also love to eat. They eat a whole bunch of food. One of their favorites is actually cactus pads. Saying, these guys get massive. They are the third largest species. They come from Africa. They are found throughout the desert in Africa, and they just kind of roam the grasslands. They roam the grasslands and eat vegetation. Now, once again, this is an adult male. It takes about 20 years or so for a baby sulcata to get to that size. Now, these here are all of the babies, and I actually sell these little guys. So if y'all are interested in purchasing a little baby sulcata like this feisty little fellow right here, definitely let me know. Hit me up on my Instagram. So this is a baby sulcata, and if we walk him over to Fury here, you can get a real good size comparison. That is a baby, that is an adult. Now, how do you go about keeping a baby sulcata like these little fellas here in an enclosure? When they're fully grown, like Fury's size, I recommend minimum a 50-foot by 50-foot enclosure, aka your backyard. Mr. Fury here actually free roams my entire backyard. Now, I know some of you may be worried about the pool, but Sulcata tortoises and many other tortoises have really good depth perception. Fury knows not to go near the pool, and if he does kind of get to the edge, he'll look over and he recognizes that it drops and he cannot swim. So he does not step into it. He does not step over. Even if a leaf or lettuce falls in, he knows not to go in after it. Now, if you do really feel concerned and you'd rather have your sulcata in a fenced off enclosure, definitely do that. The other thing is, if you have a chain link fence, I promise you this, your tortoise will break through it. Around my whole backyard, there's this 9-foot privacy fence, and it goes a few feet into the ground because obviously it has to be supported. So even if my sulcatas tried to burrow, which they do, they can't burrow underneath the fence. And I mean, if we walk up to the fence here, that thing's solid. There's no breaking it. You'd need like John Cena to break it or something like that. But then again, not everybody has a 9-foot privacy fence. So if you don't have a large fence, then you will have to build your own enclosure. Now, as for babies and juvenile sulcatas go, this is what I keep mine in. I keep them in tortoise houses. So we've got this one right here, and then I've got this one with some other tortoises in it as well. Why do you keep them in tortoise houses over, say, an aquarium? Well, the issue is these little fellows right here, they don't recognize glass. And so to them, glass is an invisible barrier, and they keep trying to run through it. Well, eventually they'll cause stress, brain damage, basically a bunch of unnecessary stuff you don't want for your new little buddy. That is why we use wooden enclosures, because there's wood here and they can see that there's something here, so they will not try to continuously ram it. Basically, it's to help them recognize that there is something there, because babies, they just can't tell. And same thing with my adults as well. Now, the good thing about a wooden tortoise house is, yes, you can buy one. You can buy one online and many other places. You can also build one. You can build one really simply. All you need is some 2x4 pieces of wood, a big flat piece of wood, and then however you want to do the lid, it doesn't really matter. So when you're setting up your tortoise, a wooden tortoise house for a juvenile or a baby is ideal. This one right here actually has a screen lid, so I can close it and keep the babies outside. If you do not have a lid, these babies are prone to being attacked by a raccoon, possum, and other predators. So definitely make sure you have a lid kind of like this or like this. Another unique feature real quick about this one is it can actually lock. You can put a lock right through there, and then it also secures right here. So now there's no way you can open this. Another very important task for these little babies that has to be done every day or every other day. These guys need baths on the daily. Once they've been sitting in the tub for about 15 or 20 minutes, then you can take them out and put them back in their cage. The type of water I recommend using is like treated lukewarm water. So you can use water from your hose, add dechlorinator, and of course make sure you don't fill it too high because these guys are not good swimmers. But as babies, their lungs are still continuously developing, so having that moisture to give them lots of hydration is very, very important. Along with that, if they're being kept outside where it's hot or they have a hot heat bulb on them, it'll suck the moisture out of their skin, so this water kind of acts like a natural lotion. And as you can see that little guy's doing right there, this water also helps them relieve their bowels and helps them poop. So yeah, if you get a baby, I recommend soaking them about every day to every other day, lukewarm dechlorinated water. Larger ones like 5-year-olds and up, you can just leave a really large flat water dish in there and they will actually climb in it, and same sort of thing. They'll soak in it, absorb the water, poop, and then get out. Now walking over here, this is actually my medium sulcata cage, if that makes any sense. So this cage here is about a 20-foot by 5-foot enclosure. This whole thing is an enclosure for those guys right there. Those are my 5-year-old African Sulcata tortoises. I have 3 that are that size in here, and then a couple of smaller ones. They're actually coming out of their hide right now to get some cactus that I just set out for them. Another interesting fun fact about the Sulcata is these guys can live to be over 100 years. You heard me right, 100 years. So basically, if you get one of these adorable little tortoises as your pet, it's eventually going to become your children's pet and maybe even their children. So definitely keep that in mind. These guys are a long time animal. They're not like a dog or cat where they only live a certain period of time. These dudes live a long time. But nonetheless, this is not to discourage you from getting one, and they are super cool animals. They are super fun to watch, eat, and feed. Hi! We've gone over some fun facts and the cage and everything like that that you'll need for these little tortoises. We are actually going to go over the lighting, temperature, and humidity. Now, as far as lighting goes, lighting can honestly be a tricky situation when it comes to caring for tortoises. As far as sulcatas go, there's really 2 good options. Number 1, the best option is the sun. The natural skylight, the natural sun that we get from outside is the best option for tortoises, especially sulcata tortoises. The only issue is sometimes the sun is shining, but it's 20 degrees outside, and tortoises will not do good in that sort of temperature. So with my babies and my adults like Fury over there, during the spring and summer, I actually keep them outside, but when it comes to winter here in Texas, it gets a little too chilly for these little fellas. And so these guys actually go inside with a heat bulb. So of course the sun provides the natural heat. If you can't use the sun, then I do recommend a heat bulb. But along with that heat bulb, you will also need one other very important piece of your... Can you not? Along with your heat bulb, you will need another very important piece of lighting. That is called UVB. UVB is super important. It is crucial for your tortoise's growth and shell development. If you do not have UVB, I promise you this, your tortoise will be dead sooner than later. Now you can use UVB strips that you can get online and whatnot, but if you're keeping them in an enclosure, typically what I found that works best for me as far as keeping baby sulcatas goes are Power Sun UVB and heat bulbs. The Power Sun UVB and heat bulb is a mercury vapor bulb. It comes in 80 watt, 100 watt, and 160 watt. Now this bulb is a bit more pricey, but it provides heat, it provides UVB, it provides UVA, and of course light. So it's basically an all-in-one bulb. The Power Sun also has like a self shut-off mode, so in case you were to bump it up against something, the internals won't be damaged. Another bulb that works somewhat as well would be the Fluker's Sunspot. The same thing about the Fluker's Sunspot, it is a mercury vapor bulb, it has heat, it has UVB, and it works really well for tortoises. Now if you're keeping your tortoises in a super duper long enclosure, you may want to add a UVB strip, but it's not 100% needed. The UVB from the basking spot that your tortoise will have from its heat bulb should be more than enough to provide the adequate amount of UVB. Basically what I'm trying to say is if you take your tortoise here, right? This is your tortoise. This is his enclosure, we'll just pretend. You take your heat bulb, Boom, this is his basking spot where it gets hot. When this little tortoise gets cold, he's gonna walk under his basking spot. When he walks under his basking spot, that bulb is going to shine the heat, which will of course warm him up, and it's also going to shine UVB, which will help with his shell and bone development. Once he gets too hot, he will use his power of thermal regulation and walk away from the heat. He'll walk away from the heat, cool off, and then once he gets cold again, he'll go and then warm back up. You see what I'm saying? It basically goes back and forth. Thermal regulation is what these tortoises do. They will go to one side, they will cool off, they will go to the other side and heat back up, absorb that heat, absorb that UVB and UVA, and then go back and cool off. If you do not have a hide already built into your enclosure, you will need to buy one. There are several different options. Hides aren't that expensive. You can make them as well. I really prefer the Haba huts. They're basically wooden half logs. They work really, really good for your animal. This is the Haba hut. Obviously, he can just go right in, hide under there. Once he gets cool, then he can come right back out and warm back up. Along with Haba huts, you can use many other types of hides. Flower pots also work as good, cheap alternatives for a hide. With my baby sulcatas here, I also keep a shallow water dish. That way they can climb in and out and drink some water on their own. With pretty much all of my reptiles, I offer them a water dish because, well, animals need water. And these little guys often find themselves in the morning coming out of their hide, eating their breakfast, and going in their water bowl and pooping in their water bowl. You can use many different options for water bowls. These little flower pot trays work really, really good. They're cheap, they're shallow, they hold water, so they work pretty well. You can also use tortoise-made water dishes where they kind of ramp up and down. That way your tortoise can get in and out. Those work just as fine also. So ultimately, as temperature and humidity goes for your sulcatas, I recommend you keep them about 90 to 100 degrees on their warm side and about 78 to 85 degrees on their cool side. And as far as humidity goes, for babies, I keep them about 40 to 50% humidity, once again, because their lungs are still developing. And for my adults, I keep their humidities at basically whatever the outdoor Texas humidity is. But it can vary from 50% to 80% for a short period of time. It doesn't have to be too specific. You mainly just don't want them to be sitting at one humidity for a long period of time. For example, you don't want your adult tortoise to be sitting at 80-90% tropical humidity. But if it's like that for a couple of hours or even a couple of days, they'll be just fine. Here, eat some of your greens, buddy. Eat some of your greens. Eat up. Now, while we are here, we might as well go over what they eat, right? African sulcata tortoises can eat a huge variety of different things. Of course, like I've said before, they are in fact a grassland species, so different types of grasses, hays, things like that work really well. Along with that, for babies, I recommend giving them lots of spring mix, dandelion greens, mustard greens, turnip greens, collard greens, pretty much all of the greens. Things like kale and spinach, I recommend you only give them on occasion, not too often. Same thing with fruits. You can give them strawberries, watermelon, raspberries, blueberries, all of those sort of things, but only on occasion. And when I say on occasion, I mean about once every week or 2 weeks. And then of course, they absolutely love cactus. As you can see, Fury is just chowing down on that cactus pad. So if you can get your hands on some cactus, definitely give them some. There are also specific diets like the Missouri tortoise chow that you can give your sulcata tortoise and other things like that. As you can see, Mr. Fury here also really enjoys collard greens, and he is actually chowing down on some collard green stems as we speak. Now, another thing to keep in mind when you are feeding your tortoises is about twice a week, I recommend giving your tortoises Repti calcium. This calcium you'll actually just dust on their food, and when you dust it on their food, it of course, like it says, helps give them calcium. Moving that out of the way, I also recommend every other day giving your tortoises a vitamin supplement. It's easy to apply, all you do is spray it on their food, and it gives them all sorts of nutrients. So calcium, you're gonna do a couple times a week. You don't wanna overdo it on the calcium. And then your spray, you're gonna do every other day, kinda as if you were taking vitamins for yourself. Now this stuff right here is pretty much just as important as your UVB and everything else like that. So so do not forget to add it. Now, as far as bedding goes, there's a lot of different options. You can use Repti Chip, and honestly what I use that's the most cost effective and works just as easily and as well is the No Float Cypress Mulch. You can get a huge bag of this at Lowe's or Home Depot for only a couple of bucks, and this cypress mulch works just as well as a bag of Forest 4 or any of the other name brand products. But the cypress mulch saves you a whole lot more money and you get a lot more for your money. You mainly want a substrate that can hold some humidity and that the tortoises can burrow into a little bit, because Sulcata tortoises do love to burrow. Well, y'all, that just about covers the majority of the supplies and materials you will need to care for your pet tortoise. Like I've said before, I have baby sulcatas available for sale. All you gotta do is email me. My email will be in the description of today's video, as well as my Instagram. You can also hit me up on my Instagram. Then, of course, I have other tortoises for sale. I have redfoot tortoises, I have Russian tortoises, and I even have some larger sulcatas. A couple of other additional things. I recommend feeding them every single day a small amount. I usually say about twice the size of the amount of the baby. So if you've got a baby with his shell that's about that big, you want to feed them probably about a softball size amount of food. Other decor and whatnot, you can put pieces of cork for them to climb on. You can put little rocks like this here. They will take advantage of that as well. And as they get older, you can put small round rocks in their enclosure so that they can push them over. Now, I will tell you this, your Sulcata tortoises will literally mow your yard. If you don't watch them, they will eat all the grass below their head, which, I mean, if you don't want to mow, that's a good thing. But I'm actually gonna end the video here because, as you can see, here comes the tropical storm. We're about to get completely swept away. The storm is incoming. I gotta get these tortoises inside, guys. Here we go. I'll see y'all in the next one. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Check out my Instagram if you want to buy one of these adorable little tortoises. And without further ado, I will see you all in the next one. Peace! Ward Eddie, why you? Stop biting my feet! Ow! That hurts! He's biting my feet! Aha! He's ripping my foot off! Oh my God!